So I'm going to introduce our panelists today. First, we have Joan Hernandez. Welcome. She is co-author of the book called Transformative Leadership. So she's been in on this from the beginning. She has authored many other books related to education and leadership. She has traveled over the world giving workshops in different countries, in different continents. She's very familiar with South America. And if you speak Spanish, please do call her Juanita and give her a hail up in Spanish. She especially enjoys working with educators. Next, we have Vahid Masroor. He came along and coordinated a 2-year transformative leadership project for youth in Bolivia. And he has incorporated transformative leadership concepts also in a program of vocational training. And in the U.S., he has facilitated an online transformative leadership study group. So welcome, Vahid. And next we have Jessica Kerr. Her dedication is to sharing transformative leadership with youth. So she's integrated the activities of transformative leadership into her junior youth group. And she's coordinated with a Colorado school giving weekly seminars for middle and high school students. She's also a photographer. And so she combines her photography and art into transformative leadership. Now, these 3 people are faculty for an upcoming course in transformative leadership. It starts later in February. And we will be talking more about the course during this panel discussion. Please wait till the end for your questions and answers. And so for now, I'm going to hand over to this team, and I'll be asking them some questions about transformative leadership and about the transformative leadership course. Okay, so the first question we have for the group is, what is transformative leadership? It's not something I'd heard about before, so I'm sure the audience will want to know exactly what it is.
Transformative leadership is an approach to leadership that emphasizes personal and social transformation. It also makes a distinction between leadership and being a leader or a person in a position of authority. We emphasize that everyone in a group, a team, an organization of any kind can exercise leadership if they contribute to 3 basic group functions, which are helping the organization or the group to meet its goals, promoting unity within the group, because without unity, nothing can be done, and helping other members of the organization or the team to develop their own capabilities.
Okay. So what about the course? What will the people who are taking the course gain? What's the benefit to someone who is interested in this course?
Well, there are actually several benefits. As I said before, the course focuses on both personal and social transformation. So first of all, those who take the course hopefully will experience some degree of personal transformation in their own lives. The course also focuses on social transformation, as we said, and so it is very helpful for those who want to reach out to community groups, especially to youth, and who want to contribute to society at large. Mm-hmm. This is related to social action, which contributes to the spiritual and material upliftment of communities. And in addition to, there are several ways which you can get involved in social action. We'll hear about later how Jessica is working with youth on a weekly basis in her area. And we've also used transformative leadership and ongoing projects which have a long duration, like a year and a half, 2 years. And it is very helpful for anyone to be able to participate in the discourse of society. Today, people are becoming increasingly discouraged with leadership in all parts of the world. Mm-hmm. And we will have, if you go to this course, you will have something productive to say rather than just lamenting the problems that exist.
Okay, so it's solution oriented, and anyone, whether they may be in a leadership position in the Baha'i faith or elsewhere, anyone could benefit from this. Thank you. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add that the course has generally been used working with people who are not Baha'is, and because was developed, well, I guess that goes on to the next thing we want to talk about. It was developed by Nur University in Santa Cruz, Bolivia, as an academic course. So obviously Baha'is can use it, but it is very, very open to the public at large and actually has been used much more with people, with the public at large.
All right. So the next question I have is, how did transformative leadership originate? And you mentioned it's from Nur University. That was the first place that it was developed.
Yes. Working together with Eloy Anello, some of you may have heard of him. Mm-hmm. He was a co-founder of Nur University. And in 1992, he traveled to Russia and was part of a meeting of distinguished educators such as Dr. Farzam Arbab, Paul Lample, and others. And this university in Russia had asked them to come to help them develop a program that would help the youth in Russia after the fall of communism to develop an internal motivation to behave morally. And when he returned, he brought with him a 10 to 12-page paper. I don't remember the details anymore. It was 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. And which had a brief description of 4 of the elements of transformative leadership, which we later expanded to 5 and then 6, and a list of 15 capabilities, which later we expanded to 18 capabilities. And so working together with Eloy, we continued the consultation that had begun in Russia, going much more deeper, thinking up examples, details, and so on. And in the end, we developed a program which included chapter-length versions of all 18 capabilities, as well as going into much more detail in the 6 elements. And this was a program for community development. So the first book was Transformative Leadership, or Liderazgo Moral, as it is called in Spanish. And then we took the 18 capabilities and we incorporated them into some of the more technical modules, such as in teamwork, we talked about cultivating the capability of unity and diversity, or in strategic planning of formulating a principle-based vision. And I won't go into details on all of them because it will take too long, but basically transformative leadership became a core of this whole course, and it had great results, transformational results in the teachers who took it, and the 460 teachers who first took it.
Okay. So you mentioned some elements. What are those elements? What are the key ideas behind transformative leadership?
So it's interesting to think of transformative leadership in terms of the evolution it had while experimenting with communities in Bolivia and around the world. And the way it's conformed is basically having a conceptual framework that integrates the 6 elements that Joan mentioned. So the first one, which is becoming more and more heard of even in business environments, is this idea of servant leadership, this idea that leadership should be considered as of service to the group, to the team, to the organization, to the community. Then there's a key idea that I think is very particular to transformative leadership, is that it presents a discussion about what the human being is, and then what kind of interactions we can make between one another when we consider each other human, and what we understand by the term human. So the proposition here is this idea of essential nobility as the potential that every human has, and build on interactions from there. Then there's the idea that we are all in the task of searching for and applying truth as we best understand it. So we understand that there's a reality that is our context, but also a reality that is the ideal we aspire to, and that creates progress as a community or as an organization. Then another idea that is very important is personal and social transformation, which Joan has mentioned. We know that these two have to go hand in hand. There's no point in trying to separate one from the other. So this is another key element of this. When we are especially faced with difficulties and hardships in life, we turn to our values and our core, and that core can be spiritual. We can go to it in different ways. But this idea that we go to this center of our values, get inspiration from there, and then come back to our reality and apply those eternal truths or principles into our lives and the situation we're dealing with.
So, as we mentioned, there are 18 capabilities of transformative leadership, and we have grouped them into 3 categories. The first are capabilities that contribute to personal transformation. That include things such as self-evaluation, learning from reflection on action, systemic thinking, and others. Then we have 4 capabilities that contribute to bettering our interpersonal relationships, such as imbuing our thoughts and actions with love, giving encouragement, participating in effective group consultation, and promoting unity and diversity. And then we go on to capabilities that contribute directly to social transformation, such as establishing justice, transforming the dominating relationships, empowering education, elaborating a shared principle-based vision, and others. So it is very complete. And actually, when we give workshops, we often ask the organization that we're working with which of these capabilities is of most interest to them or of greater interest to them, because unless it's an ongoing program that lasts several months, then we don't have, there's not enough time to go into detail into all of the capabilities, although we do see them in a summarized form.
Mm-hmm. So I would imagine then that for the course, people can explore different capabilities depending on what field they're in. But what I wanted to ask next is what fields has transformative leadership been applied in? We've heard about teaching teachers. We've heard about working with youth and junior youth. And a bit about business. Are there any other fields? Where has transformative leadership been applied?
Okay, transformative leadership has actually been applied in some 60 projects in over 30 countries of the world. At times, they have been long-term projects, as I mentioned, that might have continued for as long as 2 years or more. And at times, they have just been weekend workshops. But as you can see from the map, and this map is not complete, but there has been something going on in almost every continent of the world except for Australia. Mm-hmm. And as far as the different fields in which transformative leadership has been used, as you mentioned, and as I mentioned, the first field in which began using it was education. In Latin America, as you can see on the slide, we worked in several different countries and actually throughout Latin America in different ways, reaching several thousand teachers. Mm-hmm. But also in North America and Canada, the Nancy Campbell Collegiate Institute has integrated the transformative leadership framework and especially the capabilities into part of their curriculum. Mm-hmm. And in Iran, the Baha'i Institute for Higher Education has included it in their master's program in psychology. Mm-hmm. And some of those who took that program became so excited and so impressed with it that they asked permission to translate the book into Farsi. And so now it is in Farsi. It is part of the core curriculum for those studying for their bachelor's degrees. Mm-hmm. So it has been used quite extensively in the field of education. One of the teachers who studied with us in Bolivia, talking about what he learned from transformative leadership, explained, transformative leadership has helped me to understand the essential nobility of human beings and to see the latent potential in my students. Mm-hmm. Another teacher, actually she was, no, go back please. I'm still talking about education. Another teacher who actually learned transformative leadership from one of the teachers who were in the course because they had to replicate everything they learned, talked about a student that she had given up on. She just said, this girl is never going to learn, and she'd given up on it. And after studying transformative leadership, and especially the aspect of the essential nobility of each human being and the gems that we can try and discover, her whole attitude toward the student changed, and she looked on it more as a challenge for herself to try to see how she could reach the student. And the girl began little by little progressing.
Mm-hmm.
Another area in which transformative leadership has been used quite extensively is in public health, especially through the work of Mekadim and Help for Humanity, and then later in Vision and Practice. And she and Dr. Anello, who also worked in the area of public health, presented transformative leadership to the World Health Organization's Good Governance in Medicine program. And again, someone who took this program, actually, it was a former Minister of Health of Mongolia, wrote this very positive statement about it, how transformative leadership was totally different from other trainings that they had, which were more technical. And the emphasis on changing attitudes and behaviors made people think about who they were, what they were doing, where they wanted to be. And one important impact was that they really started using consultation to make decisions, because formerly people had been timid about expressing their views, and that they conscientiously tried to include everyone in the consultation. So those are some of the results that we have seen in different places in the world.
Mm-hmm. And what about the U.S.? We've heard about China, Mongolia, South America. I know there must be something going on in the U.S.
Transformative Leadership book that was published in the U.S. in 2014. Ever since the book was formally published, because before in these different countries that spoke English, we just worked with PDFs, which weren't that bad because we've gone through 4 editions of the book in Spanish. And so we could update the book as we went along. But in 2014, we officially published the book under the name of Transformative Leadership in the U.S. And people started reading it and becoming curious and writing to us about how they could learn more. So as a result, in 2018, I was invited to give a 2-day workshop in the National Bahá'í Center, and to about 20 of the personnel that worked there. And Helen Butler, the training and developing coordinator, commented afterwards that it was one of the best trainings they had taken because of the way it responded to fostering unity, meeting goals, and building capacities, and that they did want to expand it, throughout the different departments that were working there. So that is one aspect in which it's been used in the States. It was also published by the Association of Baha'i Studies. An article on transformative leadership was published in the 2018 fall issue after I had given a breakout group during the ABS conference earlier that year on transformative leadership. So it started growing in the States. But I'll let Jessica take it from here because she's had lots of experience in using transformative leadership for youth. But we published a special edition of Transformative Leadership in which the topics are more summarized, but it also includes a number of activities to guide anyone who wants to work with youth, so that there are reflection questions, art projects, investigations, things that the facilitator can use with the youth. But I'll let Jessica take it from here because she's really done a lot with this.
Thank you, Joan. So just a little bit of an overview. Discovered Transformative Leadership, Developing the Hidden Dimension book in 2017, and I was just overwhelmed and just absolutely ecstatic to find it. We had already been engaged in community building activities, contributing to the spiritual and material well-being of community at the grassroots level for 7 years, and just complementing a systematic framework that empowers all people, all ages, all backgrounds, really was truly transformative. I immediately integrated it into our junior youth program, and so the kids practice their elements, the 6 elements, learned how to engage, really just look at that lens of personal and social transformation, the twofold moral purpose that human beings have. And we then I then engaged, actually probably I told everyone about transformative leadership, but really my heart was centered with empowering and dedicating spaces for capacity building for educators and community of all backgrounds. And so we had a workshop in 2017 and opened that up to the public. We did have a teacher attend, and his take on it was transformational. He said that transformative leadership would benefit educators in all areas, new teachers, new administrators, as well as the seasoned veteran. And so he actually worked as an assistant principal at a middle school here in Colorado. And in addition to just working at the grassroots level with the junior youth group, transformative leadership really helped with helping to bridge the transitions between kids into the junior youth and then junior youth into the youth age. So you have different age groups, different needs, and so on. And it really has served as a really great bridge to transition, as well as reach and build resources. So my co-animators at the time also engaged in transformative leadership and also took that workshop for educators and community, which was really fantastic. We also did some work with a local nonprofit based Fort Collins-based organization called Intercultural Community Builders. And Intercultural Community Builders host workshops for middle school and high school students that address bullying behaviors and develop intercultural leadership skills. So throughout the first couple of months of working with that organization, the 6 elements of transformative leadership has been integrated into their Find Your Voice, Take a Stand anti-bullying workshop. And that has been fantastic. And so we're still using that to this day. And then to continue, currently, so really for the last year and a half, transformative leadership has been integrated into a passion of mine, which is photography, and really looking at the arts in terms of empowering young people, empowering community, being the voice, the message of being the change you wish to see in the world by Gandhi is a very foundational quote that is built into this framework. And so these young people have really been receptive and have taken this to heart. And so now we have 20 to 30 students weekly engaged in transformative leadership in Colorado. And throughout the time of our learning the name intercultural change agents, so basically agents of transformation in our community. This name has really taken hold. One of our students said that basically learning transformative leadership has helped him become a better person by having better relationships with family and friends. The capability of unity in diversity has helped me when he had a disagreement with someone and he knew it was okay if there were different opinions and beliefs. What we believe shouldn't define us or restrain us from having unified relationships. Our young people are constantly in spaces where divisiveness and adversarial relationships are really taking its toll. So these kids use this framework to be able to navigate these challenges, and they are able to make informed and really just conscious knowledge, use their conscious knowledge and their passion and desire for justice to make decisions, to basically elevate themselves, to not be a role or play a role in those adversarial relationships. They basically contribute practice their capabilities into making situations more unifying. And so it's been incredibly heartwarming to see these kids do that.
Okay. So it seems to me that transformative leadership has a very, very broad application. I want to ask though, why do you think transformative leadership is so relevant now, today? Why do it now? I've been going along, I have some principles. I know what the virtues are. I know, I've been bringing myself to account every day,
Yeah, absolutely.
Why would we need to have this now?
So I think that's a pretty universal approach to, why is this different? How does this really truly apply in context? And I think really what's happening is that this model of leadership, it's not necessarily the elements and the frameworks, but there's a lot of material that prefaces it, that it's foundational. And so if we take into context, let's say, just where we are as a world civilization, and to look at the progress in technology and just the level of the speed that things happen. I think that what is needed now, it's not necessarily that element of passive morality, and this actually is integrated into this transformative leadership, but we can be good people and we can just do our own thing. But what we really need now is active morality. We need people to be able to know how to have our capabilities, to be able to strengthen capabilities that contribute to integration or to those unifying spaces, as opposed to seeing an us and them mindset. And so, part of this framework also includes exploring and examining our culture, and really distinctively looking at the culture of competition in relationship to, let's say, we want to foster a culture of cooperation. And so, just looking at our young people, the toll that the culture of competition takes out on our young people, and we're talking young. We could start looking at kindergarten. It's heartbreaking. And so then you partner that with the pressures of social media in relation to becoming, the non-children age, the junior youth age, where they're 11 to 14, not children, but yet not youth. And then you have a lot of conflicting messages in society, and it's all revolves around relationships. So personal, interpersonal, and social. And these kids they want a world that's joyous. They want to be happy. They want to see peace. They want to have unity. How are they going to do it? Well, that's a big task. And so by providing these spaces for all people to be able to look at it with their own eyes and develop, then to me, that is really being the change.
Wow, I'm sold, but in our course, we can only take a maximum of about 40 people. I think that's about how much we can handle, maybe a little bit more. So for those who are not going to be able to join the course, what resources do you have that are available on transformative leadership if they're interested in learning more?
Okay, first of all, we have established a website, Transformative Leadership. No, go back to the website, please. Transformative Leadership Education.org. So it's pretty long, but fairly easy to remember. So that's someplace anyone can go completely free, since it's a website. And we have a lot of different areas and examples of application. We have links to different books. And especially we have a blog, which has, we publish a new edition every 2 weeks that tells what people are doing with transformative leadership, how they're using it in different parts of the world. Another resource is that we also have a newsletter that we send out every 2 weeks that you can sign up for. And if you go to the blog, it'll tell you where to sign up for the newsletter. We didn't want to put too many links on in this show. And then continuing on, we've mentioned the fact that, now we can change slides, please, that there are some basic transformative leadership books. There's the book that is required for the course, which is the first one on the left, which is Transformative Leadership, Developing the Hidden Dimension. There is also a workbook that we hadn't mentioned yet, which is a companion volume to the book. So if you want to get together with a group of friends to study transformative leadership on your own, then instead of just reading the book and commenting, there's questions and exercises. There's some really tremendous exercises that May Kadim contributed to this book on consultation. So that's a second resource. A third resource is the Transformative Leadership for Youth book, which is what Jess is using with the youth in Colorado, which, as I mentioned before, is like a summarized version of the main Transformative Leadership book, but also includes activities. And then in addition to that, if people get interested in delving into some of the capabilities, can I see the next slides, please? To date, in English, we've published 3 books related to the capabilities. One is Giving Love and Encouragement. The second one is The Benefits of Unity and Diversity, which also delves into consultation. And the third one is Designing Dynamic Learning Sessions. Hopefully little by little, because as I mentioned before, in Spanish we have basically chapter length versions of each of the 18 capabilities, and here we only have 5 of them that are published in English, but hopefully little by little we will get the other ones into English as we go along.
Okay, great.
So there are quite a bit of resources available.
And for those who are going to be actually doing the course, it's about 6 weeks of intensive study. Another week for, we'll start off with getting to know the educational software platform that the Wilmer Institute uses. And then there'll be time for reflection at the end and assessing, how you've done in the course. So about 6 weeks of intensive reading. And what about, is there anything practical in the course? Will they have exercises that they would need to do? And reaching out in their communities as part of the course?
Definitely. This course, and actually all of the work we do with transformative leadership, is integrated with with something that we call, an approach we call transformative learning. Mm-hmm. And basically it follows a learning cycle. And the first thing you do every week is we have a question. And the question is related to your former knowledge or your opinions or your experiences. It's not something that you have to know. It's something that anyone can answer just about, okay, what do I think about this? In fact, that's what we call it each week. What do I think? And the purpose of this question is to start connecting your brain with the subject matter. Because, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of think this about that. That's kind of interesting. I'm wondering about this. So instead of just diving in and reading and getting new information, we start by having the participants think and comment on a forum. I mean, your answer can be very short. It doesn't have to be long. Just, 3 lines or something about what do you think about this? So after people have answered that question, and we ask that you answer it before you start reading or watching the videos, then we go on to the conceptual part of the course. Mm-hmm. And please, somebody show number 2. Anyway, in the conceptual part of the course, as it says here, you read and reflect. Each week, you basically read a chapter from the book. It's not too long, about 20 pages or maybe 15 pages sometimes. Mm-hmm. And that's the main assignment. If you don't have time for anything else, then just read the book. But there are also complementary videos, which basically summarize the ideas that are in the reading. We recommend that you do the reading because it goes into more depth in the videos. But if you want a quick look at it, I mean, the videos talk about some of the main ideas in the readings. And then there are other things that are even more complementary. If you want, there can be a reading guide. Especially if you're in a study group, that can be helpful to you. Or sometimes we have links to articles or videos by other people, that are in line with transformative leadership, but that's only if you really want to go deeper into something. It's not at all obligatory. And then we end each week with a section of applications. And usually we have a couple alternatives. One question which is more reflective, like how am I going to apply this in my life? Mm-hmm. But for those who are more, let's say, artistic or into social media, we also apply an option to do something creative to show what you've understand instead of explaining it in words. And in that case, we just ask that you copy it and put that into the forum rather than writing out your answer. And then something that we do put emphasis on and ask that everyone do this is find at least one person with whom you can share what you've learned that week. Obviously, if you can do it with a study group, a devotional meeting, or a larger group of people, that's even better. But even if it's just your husband, your wife, a friend, even if it's by Skype, but the best way to learn is to teach. And so the purpose of sharing is when you teach someone else, then you understand better. And so that's a second application that we ask that people participate in. So that's basically the course. Each week you reflect, each week you answer an initial question, then you read, maybe watch some of the videos, and then you participate in the application and post your applications in the forum.
Wow, I'm really looking forward to following along and seeing what people are doing with this transformative leadership. How about registering for the course? How can they register?
Okay. Well, I think there's a couple ways of registering. We've developed this short web link, which is bit.ly/TL course info that you can copy down and go there. But I think maybe, Nikki, you can explain more, that they can just also go to the WellMet Institute site and look up 2020 courses and find it and also click there. So
that's right.
Don't have
that's
a pin
right. There's
right
lots
now,
of ways, but if you want to go right now, it's bit.ly/TL course info, and you can go sign up anytime between now and the start of the course. I hope it will be full by the time we begin. So I would suggest, if you're interested, to go right now before it begins to fill up. Okay. I think that is it. All the questions I have now. I want to open it up for Q&A from the audience. And so what I will do, I will try and take over the screen now, if I can manage that.
One moment, please. We have one more slide.
Okay.
Just if people want to get in touch with us personally with a question, or because they're interested already in the possibility of our giving a workshop for their organization, or starting to talk about a longer term project. And in that case, our contact email is translead9@gmail.com. So
Great.
if you want to get in touch with us personally, that's the address you can write to.
Right. And we have put this this website address and all the bit.ly/TL course info is in the chat. Anybody who wants to pick it up from there, and also the contact, the Gmail contact is there in the chat if anyone wants to pick it up from there. So we are moving on to questions and answers. We invite the audience to use the question and answer box at the bottom of your Zoom screen to submit questions. It says Q&A. It's a little box. You can also type in the chat box if you like, and I'll be looking out there for your questions. Let's see. No questions yet.
I saw a question in the chat box early on that was asking if it was related to what someone was familiar with transformative leadership. I saw a question in the chat box early on that it says, is this the same moral leadership that EBBF worked on? So the answer to that is someone who came to Nur and studied transformative leadership, later went on to work with EBBF and incorporated transformative leadership into one or more of their programs. So it's basically, I don't know the details of what EBBF has done with it. That's one thing about transformative leadership. People learn about it and they run with it. And so we don't really have control or knowledge of what everyone does, but I know that EBBF has used it, as have many other people. So we're not like proprietary that, you have to get permission from us. I mean, if you like this and you can use it, whether your own organization or more widely, go for it, because the world needs this.
Right. So we do have a question here from Stephanie. Stephanie says, will participants need background in the Baha'i faith, or will the faith be referred to some degree?
Actually, transformative leadership, as you can see from where it's been used, has been used almost completely with people who are not Baha'is. You don't need to know anything about the Baha'i faith in order to participate. In the very first webinar, we have like one slide that explains the relationship to the Baha'i faith. Why are we giving this on the Wilmette Institute? Which mostly has to do with the fact that Baha'is participate in social action projects in order to help society at large, but you don't need to know anything about the Baha'i faith to get a lot out of this. Like I said, thousands of people who have no knowledge of the Baha'i faith have participated in different ways in transformative leadership.
Okay, thank you. And Marcia says, will the slides be available to us after this presentation? And I can answer that, yes. We will make them available on the website, and you can find them on the web talk page for this course.
And also all the slides that we use in the presentations during the course are available as PDFs to download. That's something that WillMed Institute has prepared.
Great, great.
Going back to the question about Baha'is, for those who are Baha'is and for everyone else also, but that this is something wonderful in order to reach out to the community at large and share with them, because it's a way of transforming society and reaching people who may not be interested in religion but are interested in working for a better society.
Okay, so I have another question from Nabil. He says, this sounds fascinating. I have come across several references to transformational, not transformative, transformational leadership in business. Is there any way to trademark transformative leadership so it is not confused with the traditional transformational leadership that is focused on improving performance? So it's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I know nothing about trademarking, so maybe it's something we have to look into.
But
yes.
If I may, so the better way to find this specific model is Anello and Hernandez Transformative Leadership. So searching by the authors, Anello and Hernandez, makes it easier to find it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I see a question here. Is there any case study of a town or group coming together in a meetup type environment and transforming a community?
Not that I know of exactly like that. I mean, for example, but this isn't, like a meetup group, but as far as, people doing studies of the effect of transformative leadership, someone did, I think it was their PhD, studying the effect of the transformative leadership, and we called it transformative education, actually. No, educational leadership is what we called it in Ecuador, where we worked with 1,000 teachers and obviously included aspects of education, because that's one of the beauties of transformative leadership. You can integrate it into wider programs. So you can integrate it into a program for teachers, but include the basic framework of transformative leadership plus the capabilities that are most useful for the teachers. So anyway, this person did I think it was his doctoral thesis exploring the effects of the course of transformative leadership there. Bahi, maybe you can comment something like on the digital, on the digital group that you coordinated with people studying transformative leadership, from different places. I mean, it's not quite the same as a meetup because it was digital, but, it's a little along the same lines.
Sure. So a friend of mine reached out to me and asked how they could go about studying transformative leadership. She was aware that the model existed and was really impactful. However, and she was particularly concerned with the situation of the world as it is in 2018 to up to now, actually. So part of the concerns she has was how do I go about changing my community and the participating active in community.
Okay, so it sounds like he still has problems with his internet, but what he did was
based on that, she reached out to
She reached out to a number of friends. They weren't all from the same community, and organized a group. And Vahid was coordinating it long distance through Skype or Hangout calls. And so they would have a reading each week, and I think he posed some questions to them, and then they would get together once a week and, and talk about what they'd read, dialogue on the questions and so on. And if he can get back on, he can go into much more detail than I can, but just to kind of finish out what he was saying.
Great.
And it's really too bad that his mic's not working well because he has a lot to share.
But they can email you guys at that email address that's in the chat. I have two questions that are very similar, so I'm going to say them together. Judith asked if any materials are available in Spanish, and Fabrice asked if there are any materials available in French, and do you have experience with the French-speaking audience?
Okay, there's lots of materials available in Spanish because we originally developed it in Spanish. I mean, there's been materials available in Spanish since 1993 and only formally published in English in 2014. Both in Spanish and English, you can find materials on Amazon. In fact, I've updated many of the capabilities that we published back in 93, 94. I've updated the books that are published that I showed you in English are also published in Spanish and are available in Amazon. If you happen to live in Bolivia, just contact me directly. I can send it to you by bus. But if you're in other Latin American countries, unless you're, you have to figure out the cheapest way to get it from one of the different branches of Amazon, or I think, Nikki, maybe you can add, it's also on Google Books and some other places. But there are materials available in both English and Spanish, both,
but not
basic,
French.
But not French.
Okay, so Fabrice is asking then, if not in French, what can I do to help implement the program in my hometown with French speakers?
Take it yourself and then start sharing what you understand about it. I mean, that's a good start. I mean, take it and then maybe to make it a little shorter, get the Transformative Leadership for Youth book because it's not as long as the main Transformative Leadership book. And we'll give you permission to translate it into French.
Okay. And the name in Spanish, Nasim had asked what the name of the book in Spanish was, the Transformative Leadership. How do they call it in Spanish?
Okay, in Spanish, it's Liderazgo Moral. In other words, it would be a literal translation of moral leadership into English. Okay. And we actually gave it that name in Spanish because, as I explained at the beginning, the original concepts came because this university in Russia was concerned about how to develop internal morality in the youth there after the fall of communism. And so we gave it that name, but sometimes the word moral, especially in English, has more of a moralistic connotation.
Right.
And so when we published it in English, we changed it to Transformative Leadership. But in Spanish, we've just continued with Liderazgo Moral because everyone knows it by that name.
Okay. Catherine asks if the books are not available through Baha'i Publishing Trust.
The books in English, I think all three of the main books in English are available through the Baha'i Publishing Trust. And the one on the benefits of unity in diversity is also, they just asked me, we just made that available in the Baha'i Publishing Trust.
Just
in fact,
recently.
I think they got the order on Friday or something like that. So they'll probably just start promoting it, in their next catalog or something. So, but the three main books, Transformative Leadership, Developing the Hidden Dimension, the workbook, the complementary workbook, which is Transformative Leadership, Mastering the Hidden Dimension, and Transformative Leadership for Youth are all available through Baha'i Publishing Trust.
Great. Will the participants need to buy this book, or will you be providing the chapters to the students?
We're asking that the students buy the book. If they want, they can buy digitally. It's available digitally on Amazon and probably other sources like that. but we are asking that they buy the book.
Okay. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A, but I don't know if there's any that have come through on Facebook. Boyd? Here's another question. Judith says, how does this course relate to the Institute process? I imagine she means the Ruhi Institute process of the Baha'i community learning.
Jessica, would you like to answer that? If not, I can go ahead. But I mean, you have more emphasis with this because I've more worked with social economic development projects and haven't really related it that much to the Baha'i, Institute process.
Sure. I can only, I could just share my perspective and my experience. Mm-hmm. In short, the Institute process, as well as transformative leadership, this model of leadership and this framework, it builds capacity for our personal transformation, and it also builds our ability to contribute to the betterment of our world. And so looking at those two, they go hand in hand. And for me, in my grassroots efforts to contribute to the betterment of community, I've dabbled in sources of learning all over. So I completed the Ruhi Institute curriculum. I also have done some work with Lazos Learning, Canadian institution, and I've also done some work with CSU online learning, certificate of sustainable development. And then when I discovered just my absolute passion for social and economic development and this contributing to the spiritual and material well-being of community at all levels, I discovered the transformative leadership material, and it just fit like perfect. And so really, I see it's all integrated, looking at it as one as opposed to compartments. So I think that the transformative leadership model could absolutely strengthen any endeavor and any engagement within complementing it in the Institute process for sure.
Okay. So
maybe I could add something. Could I add something to that, Nikki?
Yes, Joan, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that transformative leadership has the advantage that you can reach out. Maybe you can have a wider embrace. Like I was just talking to a friend who lives in a condominium, and he was, thinking of reaching out to the junior youth and youth, in this whole area in which he lives, and that they might not yet be open to, Ruhi Institute or the Junior Youth Program. They don't know anything at all about the Baha'i faith. But since the transformative leadership material, in no way says Baha'i, it's completely coherent with the Baha'i teachings, but it's also coherent with the universal principles, which I would say any person who desires the betterment of the world would be in agreement with them. So you don't have to have any particular knowledge or interest in the Baha'i faith to participate in it. And, like I said, the great vast majority of the thousands of people who have participated have not been Baha'is and at times know nothing about the Baha'i faith. So I think that, it has a wider reach, and it might be that sometimes some people, want to go on and study the Institute process. Others, a great number might not. And, it all just depends on the people and the person who's teaching it. And like I said, like even many persons who are not Baha'is have also taught transformative leadership. And in that case, it would not have any relationship at all to the Institute process.
Right.
But I would say that, as Jess said, it's a transformational experience, especially working with youth. It helps them to really reflect and give them a sense of purpose in life, and that it's open to all.
Yep.
Okay, one last question from Nabil. Will the Wilmette Institute course refer to Baha'i references?
We've included Baha'i references for those who are Baha'is or want to know what the Baha'i faith says about the same topics that we're talking about. But if you're not a Baha'i, they're not like obligatory to read the Baha'i references. As I said, we've included them because Baha'is might want to know, but is this coherent with the Baha'i faith? So each week we have found some quotes not a lot. I mean, like 1 to 2 pages. We're not snowing with you with 5 pages of Baha'i quotes.
Right.
So that those who want to know what the Baha'i faith says about this type of topic, they can go in and look for it. But as I said, that if you're not a Baha'i, you're in no way obliged to read the quote, because they're not part of the, of the obligatory part of the course itself.
Right. That is very helpful. And I just want to say that the Wilmette Institute encourages groups to join courses, and this would be ideal for a group, either a group that's been studying Ruhi together, the Ruhi Institute, or a group of animators who might want to discuss and consult about using some of the principles with their junior youth groups. So we really welcome that. If anyone needs help with learning how to register a group, if you're new and never done a course before, I'll be happy to help with that. As a registrar, you can reach out to me at learn@wilmetteinstitute.org, and I'll just type it in the chat as well. It's LEARN, learn@wilmetteinstitute.org. So if there are no other questions, we can wrap up. And I wanted to just end, well, first to thank everyone who participated, Joan and Jessica, Vahid, and also Boyd, who is behind the scenes working very hard. Thank you so much for making this experience such a pleasant one for me.